Hello, everybody. Welcome to our seventh lesson already. Wow. Okay, a lot. Thank you very much for being there. I don't know if this is your first time, your second, your sixth, or even your seventh. Thank you all for being there, for taking the time and focusing on how to improve your English week by week. For those of you who are joining me for their first time, we're having weekly lessons every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Argentina time. And each lesson focuses on something that is going to help you improve your English and boost your fluency. In today's lesson, we're going to delve into the world of idioms. We're going to see what an idiom is, how to use them, and why it is so important to start internalizing them to sound more natural and to become a better speaker. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Andrea Rial. I'm an English teacher from Argentina. I have worked with people of all ages, but I now focus and specialize on teaching adults at a pre-intermediate and intermediate level, and I help them become more confident and more fluent in English. Okay, as I said before, today's lesson is going to focus on idioms, and we're going to see how they work. Hi there. We're going to see how they work, how to use them, and how to show off how to make a good impact on our next conversation. If I can tell you about an anecdote connected to this before we plunge into the presentation itself, I remember once I read something that said something like this. It was raining cats and dogs. And I remember just wondering, what is that? I mean, are cats and dogs literally coming down from the sky? And that's how I discovered this new world of idioms. Because when I checked what that meant, I not only learned the literal meaning, but also the idea that people are transmitting when they say something like that. This idiom in particular, the one I have just mentioned, hi Lou, refers to heavy rain. But if you dig deep into the origin of its origin and when it started being used, you go back in time to that moment in history in which cats and dogs used to live on the roof of the houses in England, and then after a heavy rain, some of them would fall down from the roofs. And so that's why people started using this idiom in particular, and they started saying, well, it's raining cats and dogs. The interesting thing about idioms is that you learn not just the idea that you're transmitting through that phrase, but also you learn something about the history, the culture of the language you're learning, because the language is not just words, it's not just structures. Whenever you learn a language, you get involved into that language culture, yes, and what people think and how they see the world. That's the amazing thing about learning languages. Okay, having said that, let's plunge into today's presentation and let's start discussing, here we go, what an idiom is. Because perhaps some of you might be wondering, okay, great, what is that? Well, an idiom is a phrase made up of words, and in general, those words don't transmit the literal meaning of the word itself. So you might understand each word. If I say, it's raining cats and dogs, you understand every word I'm saying. But is the idea of the idiom clear by itself, by the words themselves? No. So that is what an idiom is. So here we have, it's a phrase which cannot be understood by the meaning, by paying attention to the meaning of the individual words. You have to perhaps check the meaning either in a dictionary or Google that phrase to get a picture and to get like a visual idea of what it is. Let me suggest something here before we get started. Whenever you come across an idiom, I recommend you to check the meaning, check the idea you are transmitting or you're being told when you hear that idiom, and also try to create a visual picture. Hi, Flor. Try to create a visual picture in your mind. I don't know if you remember, if you could participate in our third lesson in which we work with active vocabulary and how to extend the range of vocabulary you can use. And one of the things we said was that it's really, really important to get involved with the language so as to make it more memorable. In this case, what I recommend you to do is to get a visual idea of the idiom you are learning, because that will help you internalize it and perhaps have it ready next time you want to impress your audience and use one of them. So what we are going to do is to start by looking at a picture, trying to see if you have any idea what the idiom is, and then connecting the idiom to the picture to make it more memorable. So in this case, as you can see, there's a person in bed, and we can tell he's not feeling well because of the tissues, because of the pills. But look at these. You have different types of weather on top of this person, because it's not just a storm or a rain. You also have clouds and some kind of sunny weather. So the good thing about this picture is that it clearly represents the word that you need for the idiom. Because in this case, when you want to say that somebody is not feeling well, you can say that that person is under the weather. So look at this picture again. It gives you this idea. This person is not feeling well and he's literally under the weather. If you do some research on the origin of idioms, more often than not, you will find that, well, there are several possibilities, that there isn't a clear origin. In this case, if we try to find out when or where this idiom originated, we might go back in time to that period of sailors and sailors on boats, pirates, let's say. And when somebody felt ill on a boat, they were usually told to go under the deck, to be away from the rain, to be away from the waves, from the wind. So apparently, that's the origin of that expression. In order to get better, people were told to do that, to go under the weather. So today, we use this expression to transmit that idea that you're not feeling well. Look at this example that we have here. It says, after a busy week at work and lack of sleep, Tom woke up feeling under the weather on Saturday morning. So remember, these are the things we said in connection to learning vocabulary. Try to make it personal. Try to think of a moment in which you were not feeling well and use this phrase, use this idiom to connect it to that moment in time. Yeah, and that will help you internalize it faster and have it ready in mind to use it whenever you want to say you are or you were feeling this way. Hold on a second, I need to move something here. There we go, because I couldn't see it very well. That's it, very good. Let's move on to our next idiom. Perhaps this one might be a little bit more popular, even though we don't use it in Spanish. In this case, we can see somebody with a broken leg, but look at his attitude. He doesn't seem to be in pain or suffering or worried about this condition. Okay, in this case, this is a phrase. Oops, I didn't mean to go back. I meant to go forward. There. Nah, okay, hold on. There, I'm pressing the same button too many times. The idiom here is this, is break a leg. And you generally use it as that, as a fixed phrase to wish somebody good luck. So if you want somebody to do something successfully, to get good benefits out of something, you might use this idiom and wish this. Okay, you just say directly, break a leg. The origin of this idiom takes us back to the period of theaters in the past. And it is kind of connected to superstitions, because in a theater context, it is usually said that wishing good luck, in fact, brings the opposite. So you have to say something negative in order to wish good luck. So people starting wishing actors this break a leg in order to say have a wonderful performance. Today, this idiom is not only associated with a theater or theatrical context, we can use it in any other context as well. So look at the example we have here. On the day of the big job interview, James' friends sent him a message saying, break a leg. So remember, it's a fixed phrase and it's just the same as saying good luck. Okay? Good. Let's move on to our next idiom. This is something I often use in my lessons, so I'm sure that all those students of mine that are there might already know what we are talking about here. The picture is self-explanatory. We are literally talking about a piece of cake. And that is the idiom in this case. But what's the idea if you say that something is a piece of cake? Well, here we're just saying that something is very, very easy. It's a piece of cake. For those of you who speak Spanish, I don't know if this applies to any country, but here in Argentina, we usually use the word potato to say that something is easy. In English, you use this one, yeah, a piece of cake. And if we try to find the origin of this idiom, we might go back to the United States and the time of fairs, those fairs in which people could play games and get a prize after playing. And apparently at that time, when people won one of those games, they were given a piece of cake as a prize, as a reward. And that was something, or the games were generally quite simple. And this later on became like a fixed phrase to say this, to say that something is quite simple. It's very easy. Let's take a look at this idiom in an example. Here it says, after months of preparation, the final exam turned out to be a piece of cake for Emily. So she got ready for the exam, she studied a lot, and so after that, the exam was very easy for her. Yeah? Okay, another one. What about this picture? What can you see here? Okay, we've got a moon, as you can see there. This is representing once, yes, just one time, but pay close attention to the color of the moon, because in this case, the idiom is once in a blue moon. What is this? What is a blue moon? A blue moon is something that is sometimes referred to as a kind of event that is quite rare, because it's having 2 full moons within a calendar month. For those of you who perhaps have more knowledge on planets and the position of the planets, perhaps really get the idea of this or know more about this. This is what I could find out after doing some research. So having a blue moon is not something common. So if you say once in a blue moon, this transmits the idea of something that happens rarely, yeah, something that is not quite common. If we take a look at these within an example, we can find these. Sorry, you can go on reading. The sentence here says, my old friends from college and I meet up for dinner once in a blue moon because of due to our busy schedules. So how often do these people get together? Once in a blue moon, yeah, perhaps once, I don't know, once a year it might be, not very often. So again, get involved with this idiom and try to think about something that you do once in a blue moon. For example, if you don't usually go to the cinema, you might say, well, I go to the cinema once in a blue moon, or I go to the theater once in a blue moon. And the idea you're transmitting is that it's not an activity you frequently do. Let's move on to another idiom. Okay, so what do we have here? Do you know these words in English? Do you have any idea what these is called in English? Because the focus is there, not on the hammer, but on this thing here. It is called a nail. And this top part of the nail is called the head. So the idiom here has to do with the action, yes, what this person is doing, and with this object in particular. What you say here is to hit the nail on the head. So if you think about the context of this idiom, it will definitely take us to carpentry, to people designing and making furniture. Hi, Maxi, welcome. So in this case, if a person needs the nail to go in an exact position, he or she will have to hit it exactly on the head to make the nail go straight into the wood, because if you don't hit it on the head, it might bend, and that might cause problems. So if you hit something on the head, not something, sorry, if you hit the nail on the head, it means that you could get the precise thing that you needed, that you got it right. Let's see how this works in an example. Look, it says, my old friends from college. Oh, I repeated the same example. Shame on me. Okay, let me invent one. They were discussing, people were discussing in a meeting a topic, and one of them was able to find the right solution to the problem that they had. So we can say that this person hit the nail on the head because he found the solution, the necessary thing for this problem. Okay, so in Spanish, I don't know again if this applies to Spanish all over Latin America, but here we use something connected to a keyboard and like hitting the right key on a keyboard to express this idea, like getting the right thing, yes, discovering the precise thing. Okay, all right, there we go. Let's move on to another one. I think this is kind of international, because we also have it in Spanish. I don't know if you know what you call this thing in English. If you do, just tell me in the chat. But this is not just a piece of wood. In this case, the specific word for this is log. So in this case, the idiom is to sleep like a log. In this case, there's no origin, let's say, that we can go into and find why and where this idiom started being used. In this case, it's a simple comparison, like an analogy between a log, something that is stiff without any kind of movement, and a person sleeping that way. So if you are under very deep sleep and sleeping soundly, you might say that you're sleeping like a log. Let me stop here and mention a song. You know, I love songs. You know, I always make connection with them. And in this case, I would like to bring the one by the Beatles. It's been a hard day's night. The song says, well, it's been a hard day's night. I should be sleeping. Do you know the other part? Like a log. So again, this might be quite simple because it's not only used in English, and you might find it also easier to remember. Let me show you an example. After a long day of work, John hit the pillow and slept like a log, not waking up until the following morning. Okay? Who would like to be sleeping like a log right now? I guess that many of you might say, me. Okay, all right, another one. Okay, if you follow me on Instagram, I posted, I think that was on Monday, a couple of activities to check if you knew these idioms. And this is one I used there. In this case, as you can see, there's a person holding money in his hand, and that money is also coming through the nose. What's the connection here? Well, first of all, the idiom is to pay through the nose. And when you pay through the nose, you pay a lot of money. Perhaps this idiom doesn't make much sense, but if I tell you about one possible explanation related to the origin of this idiom, it might make more sense. Let me tell you that it's a bit bloody, yeah? What I found out was that this phrase apparently started being used in Viking times. And Vikings imposed lots of taxes on people, and they had to pay a lot of money. And those of you who rejected paying, they had their noses slit, cut. And so the expression started being used as, well, either you pay a lot of money or you pay through the nose. Okay, the origin is not that nice, but it's a commonly used idiom nowadays that refers to the idea of spending a lot of money, paying a lot of money for something. For example, look at these. I really wanted to see my favorite band in concert, so I ended up paying through the nose for those front row tickets. Yeah, front row tickets. Okay, so again, has any of you bought any tickets for the last concert? I can't remember. I've got Dua Lipa in my mind, but it was not Dua Lipa. Maxi, you, I think your daughter went to see this singer, and you told me that the tickets were very expensive. So you can say in that case, okay, that you had to pay through the nose for them. Okay, all right. I will tell you when her name comes to my mind. Okay, Taylor Swift. That's right. Thank you very much. Okay, good. So let's move on. Another one. Look at this picture. The origin of this idiom is also a bit bloody. When I tried to look for a picture representing this one, I found lots of them doing this, but with blood dripping out of their mouth. Okay, in this case, here, it's very important to know the word for this object, which is bullet, because the idiom is represented by doing this with your teeth and a bullet. So in this case, the phrase is to bite the bullet. Now, what about this idea? Do you think it is something comfortable to do, to have a bullet in your mouth and to bite it? And when do you think you might do that? Okay, this idiom takes us back to war times in which anesthesia hadn't been invented, discovered yet. And so when soldiers needed to have some surgery or perhaps some kind of amputation, they were given a bullet to bite it so as, to tolerate, to put up with the pain as much as they could. So that's the origin of that. So let's make some kind of association with the idea in which it is used nowadays. If you have to bite the bullet, you have to put up, you have to tolerate a situation that is uncomfortable. Like saying, okay, I know this is difficult, I'm going to do it all the same. Let's see if the idea becomes clearer with an example. In this case, it says, the team had to bite the bullet and work overtime to meet the tight deadline. So, did the team want to work overtime? No, they didn't, according to this example, of course. But it says, well, they had to face the situation, do it, even though it was something uncomfortable, something they didn't want to do, because they knew that the project's success depending on their extra efforts. Okay? Is that idea clear? To bite the bullet, again, to face a difficult situation, an uncomfortable situation, and do it all the same. Let's move on to another one. Okay, what about this one? Does anybody know what this is called in English? This green sort of tree behind this guy. It's called the same way an American president's surname is. And this is a bush, yeah, what you have here. And what is this guy doing with this bat? Okay, he's kind of beating, he's hitting with that bat. And the idiom here, I love this one, is to beat about the bush. Okay, what? I told you the meaning of beat, it is to hit. I told you that this is called a bush, but remember this is an idiom, so even though you might understand the words in an idiom, the idea it transmits might not be clear at all. In this case, we have to go back to medieval times, and again that was usually played by hunters, that they had to, okay, kind of beat or hit around a bush to get the animals come out, yes, of that bush, and then to kill them instead of killing them directly. Again, many idioms don't have a very nice origin, but they might help us, or knowing about this might help us grasp the idea a little bit more clearly. So, how can we take that idea and apply it to the use of beat about the bush nowadays? If I told you that it originated with this medieval kind of game because hunters didn't want to kill the prey directly, they wanted to kind of play with it. Okay, to beat about the bush, then it means to go around a topic, perhaps, without talking about that thing directly. So perhaps you are saying different things, but nothing of what you're saying is connected to the main topic of the conversation. You avoid going straight to the point. So it would be the opposite of that. Either you go to the point, you stick to the point of something, or you beat about the bush. Does that ring a bell? Okay, look at the example. Instead of giving a clear answer, he kept beating about the bush, discussing unrelated topics. So, again, that's the idea of this. Beating about the bush, not going to the point in a conversation, right? Perhaps you can think of examples of this? Yeah, people at work, perhaps? Okay, any coincidences? All right, good. What about this one? We've got here the picture of two eyes, but the important thing, what you need to focus on is on this attitude. They are about to hold hands, and they are both smiling. The idiom here is to see eye to eye. Okay, they are looking at each other, but again, what's the idea of this? I couldn't find any specific origin for this idiom, but the idea is the following. If you see eye to eye with somebody, it means that you agree with that person. You've got similar opinions. So that's the idea of this movement, or the fact that you look at each other's eyes. You see, again, eye to eye. Okay, no, I pressed the wrong button, this way. And let's read the example that we have here. Although they were friends, they rarely saw eye to eye on business matters. This is the preposition you usually use after this expression of seeing eye to eye. Yes, you can see eye to eye, and so you agree with that person, or you might very well say, no, we never see eye to eye on politics, on religion, on business, on, bringing up children. It could be any topic, but the idea is that, to agree. Okay, and I've got one more, our last idiom today, and then we're going to do a multiple choice test to check how much you remember. All right, here, we've got an animal, right? I guess most of you know the name of this animal. It's a camel, even though perhaps the hips there are not that perceptible. And do you know what this is called? What is this thing on top of the camel? You call this straw. Yeah, perhaps you have seen this word, you have heard this word connected to that plastic thing you use, or paper thing you use to drink something. Yes, it's the same thing. All right, but what's the important part of this picture? Look at the camel's legs. They are shaking. So how much weight, or how much more weight do you think this camel is going to tolerate before just falling down, or literally breaking a bone? So the idiom in this case is the last straw. But this idiom is longer. But just by saying the last straw, people understand what you mean and what you're talking about. You might say just the last straw, or if you say the whole idiom, you might leave the word last aside. You can say the straw that breaks the camel's back. What is the idea by this? Okay, it's like putting up with a lot of things and one, perhaps small thing that ends up doing away with your tolerance, and so like taking some kind of decision because you cannot tolerate things anymore. But something is what is described as the last straw. Perhaps you have a series of events, and then the last one, like the last you could tolerate. Okay? Let's see this idiom in an example. Despite putting in extra effort on every project, the absence of recognition was the last straw for Tom, and he decided to resign. So look at this, like the last thing he could tolerate and then taking a decision on that. Here we usually use the image or the idiom of a glass and a drop, like saying it's the last drop, yes, that you can tolerate. In English, you say, again, the last straw, when you cannot tolerate something anymore, and after that you decide to take a decision or you do something as a consequence. Okay, we have worked with 12 idioms. Wow, let's see how much you remember them by doing an exercise. But before plunging into that, please remember how important it is to get involved with whatever kind of vocabulary you want to learn. And by getting involved, I mean, okay, make a visual picture of what you're trying to learn. That's why I decided to include a picture for every idiom. It was going to make a kind of impact on your brain, and I'm sure this is going to help you remember that. Another thing, remember to make it personal. Yeah, think of a situation, for example, in this case with the last straw, in which you, okay, tolerated things, put up with things until you said enough. The more you connect vocabulary to your own experience, the more memorable it becomes. And this is no exception. Idioms will also work the same way. So as I said before, make a visual image of them and make them personal. If then you have the possibility of writing them down, of highlighting things, fantastic. But at least remember to do those two things, and I'm sure you will get, I forgot. I'm so absent-minded today. I was going to move into the exercises, but there's one more. Okay. Last but not least, this one. Okay. What is this clown doing to this man? Okay. We've got a leg because the idiom is related to that. And as you can see, he is pulling this man's leg because that's the idiom in itself, to pull someone's leg or somebody's leg. Okay. But why did I choose the picture of a clown? Because there were lots of pictures to choose from. But this one in particular helps you get the idea that this is a kind of joke. So when somebody pulls somebody else's leg, they are making a joke. In Spanish, the idiom is connected to hair, yes? Like kind of taking or drinking perhaps. But in this case, in English, it's with another part of the body, with a leg. The origin of this idiom takes us back to theater times as well, comedies, and what actors did as some kind of joke. Okay? Look at the example. Again, this way. Okay? And it says, when he announced he was quitting his job to become a professional surfer, his colleagues thought he was pulling their leg. So they thought that it was a joke, that he was kidding. We don't know if he was or if he wasn't, but that's what their colleagues interpreted, that he was pulling their leg. Okay? Now, yes, we're going to plunge into the exercises. I'm going to show you a couple of sentences, and you will have 3 options in each. Let's see if you can activate the chat and start giving the right answer there, the one you think completes each of these idioms. The first one, the first sentence says, the unexpected repair cost us a fortune. We had to. Okay, which do you think is the right answer here? We had to break a leg, we had to pull someone's leg, or we had to pay through the nose. Okay, in this case, 3 parts of the body. Which one is correct? Do you remember? Perhaps the verb here is very useful because you have one connected to money. Pay. Yeah, because that's a correct one. You have to pay through the nose. Remember, that means to pay a lot of money. Okay, another sentence. Look at this. She pretended to have won the lottery. So focus on this. She pretended. Everyone believed her at first, but then she revealed she was what? She was pulling their leg. She was biting the bullet. Remember the picture? Biting a bullet. Or she was beating about the bush. Remember that guy with a bat in his hand? Okay, which is the correct answer here? A, B, or C? Okay, she was just pretending. So the correct answer to complete this sentence is A. Everyone believed her at first, but then she revealed, she confessed that she was pulling their leg, that it was a joke. It was not something real. Okay, another one. It says, the constant criticism was, and I decided it was time for a change. So that constant criticism was a piece of cake, it was pulling my leg, or it was the last straw. Do you remember here? Look at this. I decided it was time for a change, so it was the last thing I could tolerate. So the right answer here is dun, 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 the last straw. It was the last thing I could tolerate. That's it. Say no more, would say a famous singer here in our country. Okay. All right. Another one. After studying for weeks, the final exam turned out to be, this is very similar, yeah, to something we read in the examples when we learned the idiom. Studying a lot. So after doing that, is the exam difficult? No, it's not. So which of these three idioms has to do with that? Under the weather, once in a blue moon, or a piece of cake? To say that something is very easy. Okay, the right answer here is, there we go, a piece of cake, yeah? The exam was so simple that he could pass that very easily. All right, and okay, let me move on. What about this one? Despite their different perspectives, the two partners managed to... So we have people here with different ideas, different perspectives, but they managed to... on the new business strategy. They managed to bite the bullet, they managed to see eye to eye, or they managed to break a leg. What's the correct answer here? Do you remember? Opposing ideas at the beginning, but finally there was a point in which they could agree. So we can say that they managed to see eye to eye. Okay? All right, I hope you're getting the right answers there. Yeah, that you have already internalized all these idioms and that you can start putting them into practice right after the class. Another one. Here it says, apologizing is never easy. But he decided to and admit his mistake. Apologizing, for those of you who don't know, is to say sorry, yeah, to apologize. So even though that is not an easy situation, this guy decided to do what? And admit his mistake. Decided to bite the bullet, decided to sleep like a log, or decided to beat about the bush. Do you remember which idiom transmits this idea, conveys this idea of facing something difficult, even though you might not want to do it? Okay, the right answer here is to bite the bullet. Yeah, that's not an easy situation, saying sorry, apologizing, but he decided to bite the bullet and to admit his mistake, right? Okay, very good. So I hope you have enjoyed today's lesson. I hope you have learned these 12 idioms. This lesson is going to be available for a whole day, for 24 hours. So if there's any part you would like to see again, you can do so. It will be available. It's, as I always say, a pleasure for me to be here to give you something of what I know. We're going to be meeting again next Wednesday at the same time on the same channel. And as I usually ask you, it's going to be very useful for me and helpful if you can give this video a like, if you enjoyed it, if you feel you have learned something out of it, and to write a comment once the video is over in the comment section as well. If you want to, you can follow me on my Instagram page. I also post lots of things to boost your fluency, to boost your confidence, and to become a better speaker of English. People, thank you very much for being there. Have a wonderful day, afternoon, evening. I don't know when you're going to be watching this video, and see you again next time. Take care, and again, thank you very much for being there. Bye-bye.